Good evening. It's 6:01. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Manitou Springs City Council for October the 21st, 2025. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. And before I ask the city clerk to call the roll, I will note that Councilor Shada has asked to be excused this evening. Can you go ahead and call the roll, please?
City Council members Judith Chandler,
Present.
Julie Wolf,
Here.
Nancy Fortune,
Present.
Michelle Weatherholt,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Natalie Johnson,
Here.
and Mayor John Graham.
Present, thank you. Next item is approval of the agenda. I think everybody's had a chance to look it over, so I would look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. I'll second.
A motion and a second by Councilor Chandler. Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. The agenda is approved. Next item is public comment on non-agenda items. So this is the time during the evening when anyone who would like to speak item that's not on the agenda is welcome to do so. We haven't received any forms indicating anybody's interested. Is there anybody in the audience who wants to speak to anything that's not on the agenda? Guess not. We'll move on then. Next time is the consent calendar. We just have two items on it this evening. First is a presentation of warrants. Those are the checks we've written. The second item is consider reappointing Carl Stang to the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority Citizens Advisory Committee. And council, if any member would like to take an item off and discuss it separately, we can do that. If not, I would seek a motion to accept and approve the consent calendar.
I'll move to approve the two items on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Judith. Do we have a second?
And I'll second with thanks to Carl Stang for volunteering for this position. Thank you.
Okay, so we motion a second. Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. And I would like to repeat Nancy's thanks, Carl. The CAC, the Citizens Advisory Committee of PPRTA, does a lot of work for the organization, especially for the board. The CAC vets a lot of projects in there, things like asphalt contracts and road work, and sometimes they get into safety items. So it's a lot of in the weeds work, and it's not terribly exciting, but it's extremely important. So all leads to highway safety and efficient roadways. So Carl, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Moving on then. First item under business is to consider appointing Marion Chiruzzi to the Open Space Advisory Committee. I hope I got that right. Dave, if you could come forward. We have Dave Conley, the chair of OSAC. Maybe you could do the presentation, sir.
David Conley, 335 Rockledge Lane, current chair of the Open Space Advisory Committee. We have two alternates to recommend to council to consider for appointment.
Dave, could you move the mic just a little closer to your mouth or
Closer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks.
With hearing aids, things sometimes feedback, and so thank you for the advice on that. So the first is Marion Chiruzzi, and some of you may know her because of her involvement in the community. That's true with both of the alternates that we're recommending. Marion submitted her application. She's attended one of our meetings. Actually, I think she's attended two. They've both been virtual, and the committee had recommended approval unanimously. And she's here tonight to introduce herself and to answer your questions.
Good evening, everyone. A little bit about my career. My background is I am a molecular biologist, and I've worked both in research and at getting drug approvals, working with the FDA and other health authorities for oncology drugs. And I've also taught at the community college level. I also am now consulting for a biotech company in Germany. Currently, I do a lot of volunteer activities because I like to be very involved in a lot of different things, and I like to be busy. I work at the Humane Society. I also do the Manitou Garden Club, and I work at the Manitou Pantry. And I am recently joined the Women's Club as well. So I like being involved. And the reason why I like joining the open space is I enjoy hiking. I think it's important that we have open space for folks to enjoy for now and in the future. I'm also a master gardener, so it's important to me that we get off the any kind of invasive species that are invading our open spaces. So I thank you all very much for listening. If you have any questions or any other comments, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, questions, comments? Okay. Pretty impressive, yeah. I guess I could, on behalf of council, I think we're excited to have you join OSAC. We appreciate your stepping forward, and it's a great organization. It's done great service to the city, and we take a lot of our open space for granted, and we love it. I mean, we as Manitou citizens, but we have to remember how important it is. So the work of OSAC is it's not just work for today; it's work for well into the future. So we appreciate that. Other comments from council? Judith?
Yeah, I will just move approval of Marion, is it Ceruzzi?
Yes, I do the English pronunciation.
Okay.
The Italian is Taruzzi, but forget it.
Thank you. So I approve, approval, I move approval of Marion Ceruzzi to the Open Space Advisory Committee as an alternate.
Great.
And I'll second.
Motion a second. Let's vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Well, Dave, if you could stay there. It's okay. And our next item then is considering appointing Cassandra Bresnahan to the Open Space Advisory Committee. Welcome.
Really the same introduction can be made of Cassandra. Again, I suspect a number of you know her because she's been active in the community. She applied in August, as did Marion, has attended at least one meeting, and the committee is unanimously recommending your approval for her appointment as an alternate. For both these women, the committee's excited about their experience in the community and the energy that they most likely bring with them to the committee. So again, the committee's recommended Dr. Bresnahan for your appointment. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And Cassandra, if you have any comments you'd like to make, please.
Okay. So like you said, I'm Cassandra Bresnahan. Quick, I guess, little
Could you
history.
give us your address, please?
Oh, sure. 80 Waltham Avenue.
Thank you.
So as you said, I'm a physician, a general medicine doctor. I moved here 20 years ago. We're raising our kids here in the school. Everyone's super happy. Most recently, we did a 5K as a fundraiser. I saw Denise there. Last year, John Graham was there. So we had a really good time. I love this community. A big part of why we stay here is the outdoors. So just part of being a physician, I really believe in wellness. And I think that starts and ends outside. Almost every day I try to do a run, hike, or bike. And almost every year I feel like the trails have improved. So I thought this committee here is killing it, and I want to be part of it.
Great. Thank you. Questions or comments from council? Nancy, please.
Yeah, I'm always impressed by the caliber of people who join our committees and commissions, and tonight is no exception. So thank you for stepping up. And with that, I'd like to recommend approval or move to approve Cassandra Bresnahan onto the OSAC as an alternate. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Seconded by Julie. Let's vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Great. Thank you, Cassandra.
Thank
Again,
you.
thanks for stepping in. Again, OSAC does important work, lasts forever. Thank you. Very good. So that takes us to our first hearing. We have 5 tonight. We have 5 ordinances. This is second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 2025, an ordinance vacating a portion of the Old Man's Trail right-of-way adjacent to the property known as 10 Old Man's Trail. And we've
Thank
heard a
you.
little bit about this. If you'd like to give us an update, thank you.
Yes, Chelsea Royston for the record. So this is second reading, as Mayor just mentioned. There have been no developments on this case or on the rezoning since I last spoke with you. Would you like me to run through things again, or?
I think we could maybe just do questions. I think council is sufficiently familiar. I mean, if there are questions, certainly council will be welcome to do so, but we may not need a whole lot of instruction. Council have any questions? Well, actually, maybe we're ready for a motion.
Here.
Julie, or excuse me, a hearing, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Sorry, it's hell to get old. Okay, all right. And with that, I will open the public hearing. So anyone who'd like to speak to this is welcome to do so now. Any takers? And Elena, have we had any comments? Okay, nothing online. Well, in that case, I'll close the public hearing. Any additional comments or questions? Julie?
I'm ready to make a motion if there are no other comments.
I think we're okay.
I move to approve on second reading, ordinance number 2025, an ordinance vacating a portion of the Old Man's Trail right-of-way adjacent to the property known as 10 Old Man's Trail.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion? Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. Okay, next item. Second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 2125, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Manitou Springs, Colorado, rezoning two parcels also known by assessor's office as schedule numbers 7405-26-20, 002 and 47054-26-001 to public facility zone district. Chelsea?
Thanks. Once again, there have been no updates in the last 2 weeks.
Thank you. Does council have any questions on this? Of course, we've heard about it at work sessions and we heard about it 2 weeks ago in first reading. Okay, let's go ahead with the public hearing then. The public hearing is open. Anyone in the audience is welcome to speak to this. Any takers? And again, Elena, any? Okay, so we didn't have any interest there. I'll close the public hearing and can entertain a motion. Michelle, please.
I move on second reading, ordinance number 2125, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Manitou Springs, Colorado, rezoning two parcels also known by the assessor's office as schedule numbers 74054-26-002 and 74054-26-001 to public facility zone district.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we motion is second. Any further discussion? Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. Next item then, public hearing for major development plan application MJR 2501, major development plan at Hiawatha Gardens. Chelsea.
Thank you. And thank you all for approval of the last two applications. That goes a great ways towards making this next project possible. So we'll get our slideshow going. Okay, so here this application is to discuss the major development plan, phase 1 and 2, which includes rehabilitation of the existing building, which will be an open air pavilion, public restroom, parking lot, and pedestrian plaza. This is for properties known as 10 Old Man's Trail and 487 El Paso Boulevard. And next slide, and one more. Thank you. The major development plan goes through administrative review and comment, a recommendation by City Planning Commission, review by City Council, and then will be forwarded to Pikes Peak Regional Building Department for structural review. Next slide. And here is a kind of chart showing the approval paths of all of the entitlements. Next slide, please. As you can see, we have come quite a long ways towards the approval of this project. So with your previous two motions, we are now 2 boxes closer to completion, the tentative approval of the major development plan after this hearing. Next slide. Major development plans are reviewed for compliance with Chapter 18, known as the LUDC, and other guiding documents such as the comprehensive plan, the transportation and mobility master plan, hazard mitigation plan, and then of course, any structural plans that are outside of our jurisdiction, but City Council will be reviewing it with these regulations in mind. Next slide. Here we have our existing conditions. Next slide. This is a sketch view of the proposed plan. The full plan set was included in the packet and begins on page 106 of the packet. Next slide. Major development plans come with a ton of supporting documentation. So we have the application itself, letter explaining what the goal of the applications are. Major development plans trigger a Tier 3 geologic hazards evaluation. They require a landscape and irrigation plan, a drainage report, an ecological characterization study due to its proximity to Fountain Creek, and a photometric or lighting plan. Next slide. And the planning department reviews them for approval under Chapter 18. And we have criteria 1 through 9, with criterion 5 having sub-criteria 1 through 12. So I will run you through criteria 1 through 9, and we'll just touch base on the applicable kind of 5.1 dash whatever. So we'll skim through those a little bit, but if anyone has any questions, please feel free to let me know. Next slide. And we'll dive in first with the policies and goals that are outlined in Plan Manitou that are supported by this application. The full list is in the Planning Commission report that was part of the packet. Next slide. Criteria 2 looks for compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood, buildings and uses. And so we have kind of now an old zoning map. Of course, you just updated the new one. So Hiawatha Gardens will become blue in future renditions of this map. But to the west, we have Memorial Park. To the northwest, there's downtown or commercial zoning, which is currently a commercial entity. The yellow along the north end is general residential and has some residential properties and some vacant properties. To the east is zoned commercial and is developed with multifamily residential. And to the south is also commercial and is developed with the duck stop. So when we look at the proposed plan for Hiawatha Gardens, the project team took into account the surrounding uses. And so the area to the west of Hiawatha Gardens Pavilion is designed to be a pedestrian plaza that mimics the park that is across Old Man's Trail. To the north, there is a smaller scale restroom structure that is meant to kind of blend in with the scale of the residential structures to the north. And then the parking lot is to the southeast and is kind of designed to be tucked back into the site so that it's not quite as visible from the public right of way. Next slide. Here again is that sketch view. The plan was designed to be compliant with the Public Facilities Zone District, to which it was just rezoned. The proposed design does comply with all dimensional standards, height, setback, things like that. Next slide. And here again, another view, but on this one you can see more clearly where the flood zone is. And so this criteria requires that the proposed grading, drainage, flood protection, stormwater quality, all of those are, designed with the site and the flood zone in mind. So the design of this site, the new restroom was designed to sit outside of the 100-year floodplain. And in the floodplain is designed the pedestrian plaza, the historic dance hall, which will have a concrete floor, and then rain garden along the southern end of the parking lot. And all of that is designed to help mitigate any additional storm water runoff that's triggered by this development and help the city remain compliant with the floodplain regulations. Next slide. This is criteria 5, which again had items 1 through 12. So on the screen here are the criteria that are applicable to the project. The Planning Commission recommended staff's proposed conditions, which are for sub-item 5, which has to do with fencing and retaining walls. They recommended the condition of approval that railing locations will be finalized as part of the grading and erosion control permits wherever a wall height exceeds 30 inches adjacent to a pedestrian walkway. And then under sub-criteria 6 for landscaping and screening, a perimeter zone with a minimum width of 5 feet of inorganic matter shall be placed on the eastern edge of the pavilion, and the requisite number of shrubs and ornamental grasses will be shown on the final landscape plan. Apart from that, all of the sub-criteria were fully complied with, and these are the only conditions of approval that staff and Planning Commission have recommended. Next slide. Criteria number 6 talks about preserving, protecting, integrating, and mitigating impacts to any identified sensitive or hazardous natural feature associated with the site. So the southern border of the site is Fountain Creek, and the ecological characterization study indicated that the proposed development will not have any negative impacts on the creek. And the site design includes this is a zoomed in section to the immediate southeast of the pavilion, showing the rain garden that will act as a buffer and filter really between the parking lot and Fountain Creek. Next slide. Here we have criteria 7, 8, and 9. Number 7, the restroom structure will be connected to water and sewer utilities. They will connect north to El Paso Boulevard. Number 8 gives the city authority to require a traffic impact study if appropriate. And given that the overall parking spaces were going to be reduced by 41 spaces on this site, which is offset by the Dillon parking lot, staff didn't require a parking or a traffic impact assessment with this phase. And then number 9, significant offsite impacts are to be mitigated or offset to the extent proportional and practicable. Staff finds that the reduction in parking spaces will help mitigate any traffic concerns that have been voiced over the length of this project along El Paso Boulevard. And the addition of landscaping along the perimeter of the lot and throughout the site will help reduce glare and noise generated by the parking lot use. Further, the construction of permanent restroom facilities to replace the temporary restrooms will reduce odor and enhance the aesthetics of the site. Next slide. So here, again, we just have the reiteration of those 3 proposed conditions. And if you have any other questions, I would be happy to answer them. Thank you again for your consideration of this item.
Great. Thank you very much. We'll open up to questions here from council or comments. Do we have any questions or comments? Judith, please.
I just have one comment as we were going through this. Now, as I was reading the packet, I know that Counselor Fortune can better articulate how long it's taken, how many years of the different iterations of this project, and then the mothballing of this project, and now that it's on. I'm just amazed that we're finally at this point. So I'm real excited. So I'm grateful that we're at this place, and just excited to see it go forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Other comments, questions? Because I'd look for a motion then. Anyone? Natalie, please.
Mayor, it's
I'm sorry.
a public hearing.
Oh, sorry. With that, I'll open the public hearing. Do we have anyone who'd like to speak to this? Anything, did we receive any emails or anything on this online? Okay, right, thank you. With that, I'll close the public hearing. I guess I'd look for a motion now.
I will move approval of major development application MJR 2501, major development plan at Hiawatha Gardens.
Second, and
Do we need to mention the staff's 3 conditions or?
I think for clarification, yeah.
A friendly amendment to be added with conditions as outlined by Planning Commission.
Yeah, there's 3 things that are enumerated at the bottom of the memo. I could read those if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be.
Yeah. Yeah, so actually, I think to restate, I believe Councillor Chandler's intention here, this would be a motion to approve the major development plan MJR 2501 based upon the recommendation of approval from the City Planning Commission and the findings that the request meets the review criteria for granting a major development plan as set forth in City Code Section 18.06.4.13 with staff's conditions. There are 3 conditions. 1, railing locations will be finalized wherever a wall height exceeds 30 inches adjacent to a pedestrian walkway in accordance with Section 1803.57C. Second, a perimeter zone with a minimum width of 5 feet of inorganic matter shall be placed on the eastern edge of pavilion per section 18.03.6.3.G.1. And the third item, the requisite number of shrubs and ornamental grasses, 98 in parentheses, will be shown in the final landscape plan per section 18.03.6.3. Was that your intent? Okay. All right. Julie had made the second. Are you still good with that? Great. Thank you. Motion is second. Do we have further discussion? If not, let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great. Thank you. And to repeat Judith's comments, it's been a long time coming. It'll be great to turn some dirt on this and see it come to life.
Thank you all very
Thank-
much.
Thank you very much. Yes. Next item, second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 1925 concerning accessory dwelling units, occupancy limits for dwelling units, and parking restrictions for multifamily residential development. And we have our planning director here, Fred.
Okay, Mayor and Council, thank you very much. For the record, Fred Rolandhagen, Planning Director. In your packet, you should have a copy of a revised ordinance, both a red line version as well as a clean copy of that identifies those particular changes that Council had requested during the first reading. So I wanted to go through those and just go just identify a couple specifics. There were 4, if you recall, there were 4 things that Council wanted to have change. Let's see, number 1, regarding that that the Council does not agree that this particular revision meets at least one of the criteria for making changes to the code. That's expressed in a new whereas beginning on page 1 of the draft ordinance and going into page 2, indicating indicating that city council has considered criteria for amendments to the land use regulations, has determined that this particular criteria will not be met, but that the city council has determined to adopt these new regulations to comply with the requirements of the statewide legislation. So that's expressed in a whereas. Second change, the desire to not allow ADUs as short-term rentals, and that is expressed. Very, very sorry about that. That is expressed on page 5, under 18.04.5.4 short-term rentals. That an accessory dwelling unit as defined under the particular section shall not be used as a short-term rental. The citation, it's on page 5. It's citation, it's number 18.04.5.4.
Thank you.
And then we were going to eliminate the last sentence under the use standards, under number 1, regarding about the density restrictions. And I have one thing that I wanted to express about that. Staff agreed to that it was appropriate to eliminate or get rid of that particular sentence. What I wanted to express was the intent of that particular sentence. What staff is concerned about is some confusion over whether ADUs would be allowed for each and every single family residence that might be on a particular parcel. As you know, we have a number of parcels that have non-conforming uses, multiple residences, in some case, multiple single-family units on a particular piece of property. We don't believe that the intent of this ordinance is to allow an ADU for each of those single-family residences. So, if council would be receptive, I've talked with our attorney over the last week, and we would like to include a clarification point indicating that those lots or parcels that have multiple single-family homes on them would not be permitted accessory dwelling units for those single-family residences, meaning that an ADU is allowed only for a single-family residence when you just have one residence on a piece of property.
Is that in the ordinance?
That is not in the draft ordinance. That's and maybe Jeff can help me here. That's not in the ordinance right now. That's a recommendation that I'm proposing.
Yeah, I mean, we have suggested language doing that and where it should be added if that's what you'd like to do. I mean,
Okay.
part of the logic is that an ADU serves as like another dwelling unit for a parcel of property. And when you have, say, 2 dwelling units on one lot that are both single-family residences, you don't need another ADU, or you don't need 2 more ADUs for that. So that's Manatee is a little unusual in that you might have more than one single-family residence on a single lot. So.
Okay. Thank you.
We
Yes,
could-
Julie?
Since this is second reading, can you give us some language so
Yeah.
that we can approve it?
Yeah, it would go in, take a look here, it would be, make sure I got the right section, section 5 of the ordinance, where it's a new subsection 1804.3.7 is hereby added. And then it goes, you go down and you would add I got this. I guess it would be, depending upon another question we're going to have, but it would basically be a new, I'd probably suggest a subsection F. And it would read, an ADU shall not be located on a lot or parcel of land if that lot or parcel of land contains more than one single-family residence.
Does that seem reasonably clear to council? Sufficiently clear? Okay, so that would be an
Can I
addition.
ask a quick question?
Please go ahead.
Jeff, you said 18.04.3.7
Yeah, but then we go
and F.
subsection
As I scroll down, are you looking at?
It would actually be a G. So it should be G.
Yeah, I
also.
thought, okay,
Yeah.
because there is already an F.
Yeah,
Okay,
I was looking at different versions.
okay.
I thought
What-
there's already a G
It
too.
would, you'd move G down to H. So I think it would go in as a G.
I see.
And then
Okay,
G should become H,
Oh.
just so it fits in. It
got it.
reads a little more.
Okay, thank you for
Move-
that
Yeah,
clarification.
you're welcome.
Okay, good. Can be any additional discussion from council on this particular recommendation from Fred? Julie?
I just want to note that there are there's other language that hasn't been discussed, but that appears to have been added based on our discussion last time, such as that ADUs shall not be located in the front yards under sections E and F in blue.
Yeah, excuse me, Julie, I don't know. I think Fred maybe was going to get to that
Oh, did
next.
you
Is-
cover that?
Not yet.
Not yet, but
Yeah.
that's my next.
He's not done yet. So let's let Fred get through and then we'll see what questions we've got left. I'm sorry, Fred,
That's
so I think we cleared up that idea.
Yes.
Let's go on to the next idea.
Thank you. Yes, and then the next one is, thank you, Counselor, that not all, that ADUs are not allowed in the front yards. Hold on, let me, and that's in that same particular section, but, under a new section E, the ADUs shall not be located in front yards, and that the minimum front setback for a detached ADU shall be the rearmost facade of the primary residence to assure that it is in a backyard. However, that if the ADU is attached, or if you create an addition to a residence that would house an ADU, that you could have that on the side as long as it's not protruding in front of the front facade of the residence. If that makes sense.
Council, while we're on this point, do we have any questions about this particular point? Julie?
Where does it say about that last sentence, about the side? I'm looking at E. And you talk about can't be in front of the home. But I don't see where it says,
Sorry, that would be the second sentence. I was referring to the second sentence that indicates the minimum front setback for an attached ADU shall be the frontmost facade of the primary residence.
thank you.
Okay, Natalie, please.
So I do have concerns about this one. Just thinking, right now, right across the street, there's a location that has a little building that's in front of the main building that could be an ADU. And additionally, when we talk about garages, I think there are some interesting garages and structures in front yards in our community that could work for this. And so I actually feel like this is a little arbitrary, and maybe in a suburban community, this would work. But I feel like in our sort of interesting European-ish town, this is very limiting, based on some of the properties I can think of.
Thank you. Julie?
May I respond to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
My thoughts are the place across the street isn't used as a garage. You can't drive into it.
This one isn't about the E, isn't about garages. It's
Oh,
about
just being
ADUs
like a-
located in front yards. And there are some structures in front yards that could be converted into ADUs.
I
That's
see
my,
the point.
that currently exist. And so I'm concerned about this one.
I don't agree, but I understand now what you're saying. Thank you.
Other comments on this? Judith, please?
So Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, are you saying that if a structure already exists in the front that could be used as an ADU, you'd like that language put in? Is that what you'd like to see happen?
I'm not concerned either way, but I'm comfortable with your suggestion if that's something that council's more comfortable with.
Nancy, please.
Yeah, I would just like to remove, where is it? 18.04.3.7, E and F, actually. They were both added, and I had concerns about them when we spoke about this last time, and I still think that they're overly restrictive and unnecessary. That would be my preference, would be to just eliminate both of those.
And
Julie?
Nancy, yeah, I just wanted to have a little discussion because I thought the reason for F was that we don't want to lose parking.
Yeah,
And
I,
we don't want people converting their garages into ADUs and then parking on the street.
again, I think it's overly restrictive.
Okay.
So I understand your position. I just don't agree with it.
And I think just to add on that, I think of like carriage houses in the Old North End. I think there's very interesting ways that a garage can be converted into a living unit and be quite beautiful. So I just think that, again, I can see how this would inhibit some really interesting opportunities that would be quite lovely.
Just question, go ahead, Judith.
I'm comfortable with eliminating the language about garages. I'm okay with that. But allowing ADUs in front yards if they don't already exist, I'm having some heartburn about that. I'm not sure I feel good about that. So
Right.
if they're already existing, like across the street is a good example, but I would discourage any new ADUs in front yards. It's my opinion that I'm happy to have them. I think they should primarily be in the back of the houses.
Right, Julie?
So would you support then, like the place across the street, I don't think would, for example, meet the minimum size requirement. Would you be comfortable with someone who has an existing little structure in front of their home, expanding it so that it would meet the minimum size of the ADU?
That's interesting because right now the maximum would be 750 square feet,
And isn't there a minimum too?
250.
So I guess my point is if we're going to allow an ADU where there's already an existing structure in the front yard, I think we should at least add a provision that says it may not be expanded, or you can't do an addition and make it twice as big.
I would feel comfortable about that. Do you feel okay? I don't see any reason to have a 750 square foot ADU in the front yard of residential neighborhoods. I'm having some concern about that. But if it already exists and it's not added onto, I think it's perfectly fine for it to be used as an ADU.
Oh, so you're fine with existing but you can't enlarge it? Is that what you're saying? I thought
Right.
you said you're not comfortable with the 750 square foot in someone's front yard. So you wouldn't allow it to be
That would
enlarged?
be my preference, but I'd like to hear from the rest of council.
I think that if we add the provision that it has to be an existing structure that's already in the front yard, we're talking about how many properties? 3, 6? I mean, that I think that if we keep dialing in on this, we're losing, it's, I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but I mean that it's not actually a problem we're trying to solve, all these little things. Like, I just want to say that we are an unusual community and we should allow for an opportunity that we maybe don't see right now based on what's here. I am comfortable adding that it must be an existing structure, but if you want to start diving into the details of the size and how much they can expand it and all these things, it feels like we're spending time on like something that may never even come before us ever. And that's that's a struggle for me.
I think that's a good point. And I guess I've got a question as to, I mean, some of these properties would also be subject to historic preservation guidelines, I think. So do we have safeguards in the HPC code that would solve some of these problems? Or are we overthinking it? Or Fred, and that's kind of a complicated question because as I sit here, I try to think of cases in my neighborhood. There's a small house right up on the sidewalk. So it's essentially in the front yard as you go down one street, but it's in the backyard of another street. And I mean, that's a problem that was created 120 years ago. It's not a problem. It was a servant's quarters or something, but it's kind of that funky Manitou thing that we talk about. Of course, now we're talking about new structures, and not the older ones. Fred, is it fair to kind of ask your thoughts on how HPC would how Historic Preservation Code would factor into this?
Yeah, and I think you're correct. There are more safeguards in the historic district and in Title 17 to address structures or rehabilitation of structures anywhere on the site, but in particular in the front where they are in view of public rights of way. So let me suggest that when you're considering whether a structure should be an ADU, whether a structure in the front yard should be an ADU or not, think about what that would look like that's not in the historic district. I think the historic district would provide those safeguards to regulate that. If you're not in the historic district, I think that might be a better question, is how does council feel about having an ADU in the front yard that's not in the historic district?
Okay, thank you. Julie? Actually, I think Denise had her hand up, so Julie, will come to you after Denise.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point because Counselor mentioned that the largest it can be is 750 square feet. And if you look at number B2, that is not accurate. So I just want to make sure that you have exactly how large these can be. It states that it shall be no less than 250 square feet and no more than 50% of the square feet of the principal dwelling unit, or 750 square feet, whichever is larger. So if you have a 2,000 square foot house, it could be 1,000 square foot. If you have a 3,000, it could be 1,500. So I just wanted to make sure that that was mentioned.
Thank you for that clarification.
But it's
Julie,
important. Oh, I'm
I think you're next.
Expert in the HPC code, but I'm not aware, I understand that that would require buildings to look a certain way, but I'm not aware of any historic preservation ordinance that limits the size of a property. Am I missing something?
I don't believe there's a specific restriction on that, but the design and how a building would look would definitely come into play when somebody applies for a material change of appearance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, Nancy, please.
Yeah, I remain committed to making this as permissive as possible. Their setbacks are in place. Regardless, I don't think that there's going to be that many people in non-historic district neighborhoods that are going to be putting 1,000-foot homes or ADUs on their front of their house. And if they are, they probably got sufficient land to do it on anyway. So I agree with Natalie. I think we live in a funky community. We can't predict what people are going to do. And I remain committed to making this as permissive as possible to allow people to use their land as they see fit. Thank you.
Other comments on this section? Okay. Tell you, why don't we let Fred finish his presentation, and then we'll come back. Well, I guess what I propose is we come back and go through maybe item by item after we've heard the whole presentation. If council has no objections, let's do that. Fred, you go ahead and continue on.
No, actually, I think that that's everything that I wanted to note. The only other thing I wanted to note was that one reference regarding parking structures or covered structures, and council is already having that discussion.
Okay, and that's paragraph F, I think. Is that on page 4? Gee, okay.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So yes, Nancy, then.
Yeah, did you cover the change on page 2, 13.12.070, section 3 that was added? I believe it was added. I didn't really understand that. That's why I'm asking.
This one was just adding to the setback tables.
Okay.
The
so it's
provision that
purely
says
administrative.
ADUs can't go in the front. And so if you decide not to do that, we'll just take that out.
Okay,
There's
thank you.
another location in the code where the setbacks were set.
So if we take out E,
We'll also take,
then we'll take out
Yeah.
that paragraph as well.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, well, in that case, I guess we've gone through everything. Maybe what we want to do is go through item by item, just in sequence, and act on each, or, maybe kind of get a feeling, and then if we could kind of come to a conclusion, maybe we could do this as a single motion. It looks like if we were to, for instance, adopt this last section that we just talked about, it's sort of contingent upon that other paragraph E. So maybe we don't want to do it line by line. I guess in general, maybe if we go around the table real quick and see how close we are to accepting what's presented. And Nancy, I mean, with all respect, I know you have two things you want to take out there, but then we could, maybe we could get a feeling for what we
Right.
all agree on, and then we could
Sure.
discuss
There are two changes that I agree with and two that I disagree with.
okay, in that case, all right, if you could, yeah,
Mayor, do you want to take public comment first before you
Actually,
get the actual council's
that's a
position?
good idea. Thanks.
Sure,
Yeah.
in case there is any.
In case there is any, Fred, you can just stay seated here. We'll see what there is. Okay, so I'll open up the public comment portion of the hearing. If there's anybody who wants to speak to this, you're welcome to do so. Did we have any emails or any correspondence on it? No takers? Okay, so we'll go back. So, Julie, I think you're thinking go line by, or item by item, work through this, and there's like roughly 4 items. We can do that. If council's agreeable, we could do that. And maybe without actually doing a binding vote, we could just go around the table and see how we feel about each one. I think there'll be going to be a discussion on a couple of those points. Is that agreeable to council? Okay. All right, let's start at the top of the file then. Okay, and the first blue line is that whereas. I think that's just our political statement. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, so, all right, so we'll call that, can we call that item 1? Is that an agreeable term for y'all? Item 1. Okay, so everybody agrees on that. Okay, let's go down to the bottom of page 2. We have section 3, and you can see the blue lines there. And do you have it in front of you, Fred? So you know what we're talking about? Okay, it's at section 3 tables, Okay, and this is, again, if for our benefit, Fred, if you would clarify this. So if we change if we change the garage or the front yard, one of those or both, maybe we're going to have to change this or delete it. Could you explain that?
That's correct. Yes, that portion, section 3, is just reflecting the table that would identify minimum front setbacks for accessory dwelling units.
Okay. In that case, what I would suggest is we call this item 2, but then push on to see what the things that really drive this, if that's agreeable to council. No objections. Okay, let's go find the next thing to consider. So page 4, and we have paragraphs E and F. And this is under 18.04.3.7 accessory dwelling units. So paragraph E is the one that addresses front yards. And Nancy, your intent would be to get rid of that altogether. Is that correct?
I would like to eliminate E, which I believe would also eliminate section 3 on page 2.
Okay, thank you. Judith, what you're thinking?
I am opposed to ADUs in the front yard unless they already exist. And I know Manitou's a funky place, but I live over by the Villas, and I could think of many properties where it would be feasible to put an ADU in the front yard. And I'm just wondering if surrounding properties, that their property values might be hampered by having a structure in the front yard. So if they already exist, I'm fine with that, but I'm opposed to ADUs in the front yards otherwise.
And Judith, would you just leave it stand as is? Would that be your druthers would be to leave?
Well,
E in there?
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson's comment is correct that there are some properties that have some structures in the front yards already. And if those were modified to be ADUs, I'm not opposed to them if they already exist, but I would be opposed to any new front yard ADU structures.
Okay, thank you. And Natalie, again, for the record.
I'm comfortable with Judith's suggestion.
Okay, thank you. I think I would do the same thing, keep in, but grandfather an existing building. Michelle?
I am in favor of removing E.
So you would delete it altogether? Okay, thank you. And Julie?
I'm willing to compromise with the Judith version of E where it pertains, it's allowed only for existing structures in the front. Otherwise, you can't build a new structure in front.
Okay, thank you. Well, and okay, relative to section E, then we have Nancy and Michelle wanting to delete it altogether. And the other four of us would keep it, but put a provision in there that existing structures would be grandfathered. That sound like a fair assessment of what
So it
everybody
comes
just.
down to you, Mayor.
Well,
Otherwise, it's
no,
going to be
I'm
3 to
sorry,
2.
I already said that I'm in favor of keeping the paragraph with a provision that an existing structure would be grandfathered, be allowed. So it's a kind of it's a 4-2 opinion here. So-
Not to make it more complicated, but I do think we need to address what an existing structure is to some degree, and also I do think it's important to address whether they can expand the footprint or not. I mean, you're gonna have somebody do that, or they can put a second story on it. Because you're gonna have like a 30-foot shed that somebody put on there that cost $500, and then they're gonna say it's existing structure, and then they're gonna put a 750-foot ADU. I think you need to be somewhat more clear about what the parameters are. I know, Natalie, you didn't want to do that, but I think it needs to happen to some degree. I guess, here's just some language you could sort of think about when you're thinking about what I just said. I mean, I would leave all the language there as it is, which basically prohibits them in the front yard. Then I would say this subsection shall not apply to legal existing structures that are converted into ADUs, provided their footprint is not expanded. And then I would, that's just an option. And I guess the other thought I had is, do you want to say legal existing structures of at least 250 square feet? Because that way it's not just some small little shed sitting there. It's something that's probably more substantial. And then I guess the question would be, do you want to allow them to add a second story or increase the height of the existing structure? Because footprint's footprint, but what about just putting another story on? Because if we just say footprint, somebody's going to say, I'm going to put a second story on. And that's okay. That's great. Just want to think about it now.
Right, it's a good point. Okay. Well, yeah, we can. Let's see. I'm just wondering if I'm thinking about garages. I mean, would we have situations where somebody wants to put another story on top of a garage? And
Oh, I see.
I mean, would it make
Like that. I
Well-
wasn't really addressing the garage thing. I was addressing non-covered parking structures.
okay. Well,
I don't want to lose garages.
right. Well, I was thinking, Jeff's comment about, adding an additional story or the footprint, would that actually also apply to garages, or maybe that should be considered separately?
Is it possible to approve this without this and have this come back at a later time? Because I do feel like it would be great to have planning weigh in on it and we can start diving in on this, but this is not where I spend my time typically. So for me, I don't feel like I could come up with a solution tonight based on the information before me. That's my concern.
Okay. Thank you. Well, tell you, why don't we push on to paragraph F for a little bit here, and we'll get through the document and then kind of see if we've got more questions. Maybe maybe that'll temper our thinking. Let's consider paragraph F then. This is the one ADU shall not result in the loss of covered parking spaces. Okay, this provision is intended to prohibit the conversion of garages, carports, or other similar covered parking spaces into ADUs. Nancy, you wanted this, I think, leaning towards deleting this.
Correct.
Okay, so you would delete. And Julie, you'd had some thoughts on that. What was your thinking here?
I'm afraid it's really going to create a problem with street parking, which is already challenging in certain areas. And so I am opposed to covered parking spaces being converted to an ADU.
Okay, so
I'm happy with F as written.
okay, so you would keep it as
Yeah.
okay. Sure, yeah, please, Nancy.
You know, another thing that has been brought up in the HAB about ADUs is the fact that trying to get younger people in them or people who are more likely to not be using cars to increase public transportation options and biking and walking and so on. So that is one of the reasons why I want to eliminate F, because I'm not particularly concerned about overwhelming our parking situation in town.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay, Judith, please.
This is a question for Jeff. Jeff, carports and other similar covered parking spaces are structures, correct? Considered a structure. So my question is that if you had a carport or some similar structure that was in the front yard or right at the entrance of the property, could that not be converted then to an ADU that would essentially be in the front yard?
Well, yes, if you didn't have this provision in there,
Right,
or if they just put a second story on, it didn't eliminate any parking spaces,
Right.
and you allowed a second story to go on.
My gut is telling me that this needs more work and more input, and I just feel more comfortable tabling it until we work on this more. I just, that's where I'm sitting right now. I think we need to think about this a little more thoroughly, would be my recommendation.
Thank you. And Natalie,
I'm definitely comfortable eliminating F. And I just want to mention that just because you have a garage doesn't mean you're putting your car in it. I mean, you can have it full of crap and there's no requirement that you use your garage for a car. So I don't equate having a garage with having a parking space. So I'm completely comfortable eliminating this.
thank you. Yeah, sometimes I think putting a car in a garage is a waste of a good building place. So I get that. Okay, Michelle, what are your thoughts on F?
I'm comfortable with removing F also. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we're under a certain kind of a pressure from the state to get something in place here. I think we could give some thought to this particular area and come back to it at some time in the future. So I would be inclined to delete it for now, and then council could revisit it at another time. I don't know how much of a hardship that puts on anyone. I don't think we have any applications pending now, do we, Fred? Okay, so I would be inclined to delete F as well at this time, and perhaps after some thought we come back to it, or some council would come back to it. Okay, in that case, basically, we have Nancy, Natalie, Michelle, and myself in favor of deleting it. Judith, your inclination was to table it. I think that's kind of similar to my sentiment there. And Julie, you would want to keep it.
My only question about tabling it is I would feel more comfortable about tabling it if we know it'll come back before us soon, because my understanding is if someone comes in tomorrow and wants to put something in their front yard with a second story and where there isn't an existing structure, they just want to go ahead and build a house in front of their house, I think they'd be allowed to, because there's nothing in our law prohibiting it. And so I'm willing to risk that happening, but I would hope this could come back to us soon. I know Planning Commission, if we're going to run it by them first, then they only meet, what is it, the second Wednesday? The second Wednesday of each month. So if we could if we're going to revisit it, I would hope it would be soon after that if we want planning's input. I don't know that we necessarily need it, but I don't want this to just get pushed out to 2026.
Okay, thank you. We'll tell you, yeah, go ahead, Judith. Yeah, go ahead.
My rationale for, I agree with you, Counselor Wolf, we want to get this done. My rationale for going back is twofold. One, it was approved on first reading already. It is in second reading and we've approved everything, as it is my understanding, except for E and F. And to me, I would feel uncomfortable voting for it on second reading unless this section is clarified. Because I would rather have it right instead of taking these out and then tomorrow have somebody come in and put a two-story, structure on their front yard and have the neighbors complaining that it's going to reduce their property value. So those are my concerns about this second reading of this ordinance. So if we could just rework this section and bring it back in the very near future, I would be okay with, I would prefer that.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead. I think we just have just one more item in here. So let's see if we can get through the whole thing, and then we'll come back and discuss this some more. Okay, so under page 5 of 6, 18.04.5.4 short-term rental. I think that's pretty straightforward. You can see the red lines have been struck through, and then an ADU shall not be used as a short-term rental. I think that was
Yeah, I'm good with that.
pretty much okay. Everybody good with that? Okay, so that part's a no-brainer. We have the definition of household, which it's just a number change there. Yeah, if we have just numbers. So, okay, so there we've gotten through the document. Okay, so really where we have I think our contention is on those paragraphs E and F. So let's discuss this a little bit more, and really, let's discuss them both. Julie?
I just need to be reminded, what was the language, Jeff, that you proposed to go to F and then F becomes G? I just forget what the subject was at this point.
Yeah, it was a single parcel of land issue. It was an ADU shall not be. Sorry. It was an ADU shall not be located on a lot or parcel of land if that lot or parcel of land contains more than one single family residence.
Right, so that's the one where you don't squeeze in a fourth or a third house on a single lot. And we haven't had a chance to discuss that as a group either.
Well, let's go ahead and discuss that a little bit then. Jeff, could you just restate that again?
Yeah, I mean, the intent was to basically not allow ADUs on lots where there are multiple single family residences on a single lot or parcel. And the way I would characterize that, the language I'd use would be an ADU shall not be located on a lot or parcel of land if that lot or parcel of land contains more than one single family residence.
Thank you. Let's go around the tables here. I think, when we talked about this a little bit, I think we were pretty much all on board with that, but let me make sure you're on board. Okay. Nancy?
Staff recommended this as an addition.
Correct. Staff is recommending this. This was kind of the intent of that one sentence that we didn't quite get, that we
Okay.
are eliminating.
Yeah, I'm not overly sure of the implications, but at this point in time, I'll go along with it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll refer to that as staff recommendation 1. Is that sufficient to identify it? Okay. So it looks like we're all on board with that part. Okay. So really, I think we're at odds here is with E and F again. So one of the factors that's several of us, I think 4 of us thought about, was to keep E but to put a provision in there grandfathering existing structures. So this would be for front yards. Okay, Nancy, you wanted to delete it all together. So did you, Michelle. If we had, okay, if we had E and then added the thing about, you know, the qualifier that existing structures were allowed to, it could be used as ADUs. How do you feel about that, Michelle? You'd be okay with that? All right. No, Nancy?
No, I would still vote against it.
Okay, so you would still, okay.
May I ask for a point of clarification? Are you saying
Sure.
with the addition of the recommended language that Jeff articulated
What he just said,
about the second stories and such for
Yeah,
the,
actually-
for the structures in the front yard that are already existing?
I-
Jeff had some suggestions about adding some more language.
yeah, and actually, we didn't really drill down on that. So I guess we need to think about that too. So Jeff, you had, I think, two main ideas, the
Well, yeah, I
footprint and this height.
Yeah, I guess the question, I was gonna, I guess I was gonna suggest that it wouldn't apply to legal existing structures of greater than 250 square feet. So we have a reasonably sized structure, provided their footprint is not expanded. So then they couldn't just expand the size on the ground. And then a question for city council, you can still change that too, but the other question was, do you want to allow them to add a second story or increase the height of the existing structure?
Okay, thanks. That's helpful.
And that just as a note, that would also impact the garage issue as well.
Right, right. Okay, well, yeah, go ahead, please, Julie.
I'd be in favor of that. I think it certainly simplifies things in that way. And it's also, I think, a reasonable compromise, because if we're going to allow an existing shed to turn into a two-story, 1,200 square foot home in front of a 3,000 square foot home, that would be quite a radical change in our community. So at least for now, and we can always revisit this ordinance in the future, I would suggest if we're going to permit existing structures that are at least 250 square feet to be converted, and for them to also still have to comply with the sentence in here that says it can't be more than half the size of the existing home, that we put in language saying you cannot perform any alterations that would increase the height or the square footage of the existing structure. You can turn it into a house, but you're not going to put a second story on and expand it and have it take up half the yard. So that would be at least a way to get started, and we can always revisit this if it seems unduly restrictive. That would be my position. It also really simplifies our task of having to come up with how big or how high these sheds can be converted into homes.
Okay, thank you. See, Natalie, you've got your hand up.
I'm comfortable with the 250 square feet, but I'm not comfortable with the height restriction. I do feel like you could have a structure that just needs to be 2 feet higher. There's just things that can just make something that's not habitable, and I find that too restrictive. You know, there's a difference between adding a story and adding height, and I have concerns about that. So, I mean, so my compromise would be I'm willing to include the 250 square foot piece, but the height I find problematic.
I
Okay,
could live with that. I just wouldn't want a second story. But if somebody needed to make it somewhat taller, and maybe we need to be specific about what somewhat means, so that you've got more ceiling height. I don't think that would necessarily be objectionable, but I sure would not want to see a second story built. And I also wouldn't like it to be expanded.
right, yeah, but we're talking about the footprint. I think you wouldn't expand beyond the existing footprint. Okay, so, okay. Natalie, you want to have some forgiveness on height. There's some leniency there. And Julie, I think mainly you don't want to see a second story. Is there, but.
Right, I
is
can
that
live
correct?
with, I can live with Natalie's suggestion about allowing an existing building to become taller. I think we need to be specific about how much taller, but prohibiting a second story and prohibiting an expansion of the square footage as well, kind of two separate issues.
Right. Fred, I guess I'd look to you. Is there a manageable way to do this? I mean, I think we're getting in a fairly cloudy area here, but I think the sentiments are, I see good intentions behind both arguments there.
uh, based on past experience with seeing remodel proposals and things like that, if you tell somebody that they can't have a if you tell somebody that they can't have a second story, but they could raise the roof or increase the height or something like that, yeah, there'd have to be a cap, because I have seen it where somebody has raised the roof quite a bit, and then all of a sudden, 10 years later, they're coming back asking for a second story in that area that they just created. So if you want to do that, you need to find some sort of a limit on how high you do that, if you're not in favor of adding a second story.
I mean, someone could
Okay.
take a dog house, right? Take a little structure for your dog. Maybe it's the height of this table. We'd have to be specific on how high it can go, I think, if we're going to allow height increase, so that it's clear, so that planning staff know what to approve and what they can't approve. I mean, I think we need to be specific if we're going to allow height adjustment. And I'm not against a height adjustment. I'm willing to make that compromise as Natalie suggested, but I think we have to be specific.
Okay. All right.
I'm just going to reiterate that I'm uncomfortable doing this tonight, that I just feel like I don't have the necessary knowledge to create a height restriction at this moment. Like, I just would love for this to come back later. I'm just really struggling with trying to get this right at this particular moment.
Okay. Well, I guess the question, Fred and maybe Jeff, would be, what happens if we were to postpone this and work on it some more? I don't know if that's a good idea. Meanwhile, I see Denise, you raised your hand, so.
I was just going to say, with this type of discussion, we need to bring it back for a work session and then for another reading. So we are going to look at 2026. I mean, it's not going to be possible to get this done in 2025.
Right. And I mean, we're also dealing with state deadline, I believe. So Fred, could you refresh our memories on that?
No, because we have an emergency
Okay.
ordinance in effect. So we are legal with the state right now.
Okay, so we could take this to a work session. Well, then let me go around the table and ask council if you want to send it to a work session. Nancy?
I don't need to. I mean, I know what I want. I've stated what I want. I will vote against it if E stays in there or an F stays in there. So I don't need to discuss it anymore.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Judith?
My rationale for wanting to postpone it is that I feel very uncomfortable making decisions about a potential structure that might be in any of your front yards. Say you have a neighbor that has a shed and they want a ADU in their front yard and they want a 2-story building, and all of a sudden in your next door, you have a 2-story ADU. And so I feel uncomfortable making any decisions tonight when there's just too many questions about how this would impact our community.
Okay, thank you. So you would postpone. And Natalie, I think I know you're going to answer.
Well, no, actually, I don't think we need a work session on this, but I would be interested in bringing it back to the Planning Commission and having them make a recommendation on, hearing what we've discussed today. And so I don't particularly want to work this out. I would love for our Planning Commission to do that.
Okay,
Support that.
understand. Okay, alrighty. Michelle?
I support Counselor Judith Chandler and Mayor Pro Tem, Natalie Johnson and the Planning Commission, because if someone's going to build something on top of a garage, what is going to be the height restriction? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Julie?
I support it as well, and I also support the idea that it come back to us after planning and request that planning squeeze this into their agenda on their next meeting. And I don't think it needs a work session either. I do have a question, though. What is the status of the emergency ordinance? If someone comes tomorrow and they want to build an ADU in front of their home, are they allowed to if we do nothing tonight other than postpone? Well, that's a Jeff question.
Yes.
Yeah, so even though there's a so-called emergency, whatever, that got us off the hook with the state, right now they can do anything. So I don't want to push this out to 2026. I'm gonna, if we have to have a special meeting someday, some evening during the week to address this as first, a new second reading or a new first reading, or however that would be characterized, I'd rather do that than take a chance that we're leaving ourselves wide open right now. We have no restrictions. If you want an ADU, all you have to do is comply with setbacks and you can build 4 of them. So I don't want to push this into 2026.
Okay, so you would just soon vote tonight? You would vote tonight or?
Oh, I'm happy to postpone, but not to not to a work session and not to 2026. I'd like to postpone to end of November, early December. I mean, if the Planning Commission is meeting the second weekend, the second Wednesday of November, perhaps we could meet later that week, or do we even have a meeting the following week? I know that
Yeah,
there are
we
some
do.
days off in November,
Yeah, we have a meeting scheduled then.
so perhaps we could squeeze it in there.
Yeah. So, Denise, did you have your hand up?
No, we have a meeting on November 18th, but staff, that makes a very short turnaround for staff to get that done.
Yeah, I would have a planning commission recommendation by November 12th, Wednesday, the 12th, but that's usually when we need to get our information in for your packets. I could be able to compile information, but I don't know if I could guarantee that it would be ready for your review by that week, by the end of that week.
Okay, thank you.
So then
No,
your next
thanks,
meeting
Karen.
is
Yeah.
December 2nd.
So what if we asked planning to go forward with this on their November meeting? And then we put this into our first meeting of December, and that way they have time to get it in the packet. What about that?
Okay, it looks like that would work. Okay. Well, it looks like the sentiment of the majority council then is to send this back to planning and ask them to address those 2 paragraphs. Well, what I'm wondering here is there's a couple other little things that I think we're in agreement on, and that was what we called the staff recommendation 1. That was what you brought up, Fred. Of course, then there's the first item, the whereas. I think we're on board with that. So, and then section 3 relative to the tables, that's dependent upon paragraph C and F. So I guess in the interest of simplifying things for the future, maybe we take a motion to approve the whereas and the staff recommendation and get that added in. And then with the idea that when it comes back, we would really be looking at paragraph C and F. And then does that seem like a reasonable approach, council? Okay. Okay, well, okay, let me restate that then. I guess, okay, and the motion then would be to incorporate the staff recommendation to accept the first whereas, or the additional whereas, and then to send what's left back to send paragraph C and F back to the Planning Commission for a recommendation. And then
Short-term rental as well.
and I'm sorry, and yes, and there would also be the short-term rental would be added in, so that would be 1804.5.4. So it would then state that an ADU shall not be used as short-term rental.
I think,
Okay, so that's my motion.
and can your motion, as a friendly amendment, just reference that we're adopting ordinance number 1925, subject to everything you just said? So that we're specifically adopting the ordinance minus E and F? And
We can
adding the
only
other
adopt the
things?
provisions because we're not accepting the ordinance yet.
Oh, I don't think you can adopt just part of an ordinance. Jeff?
Well, I guess I wasn't sure if you were gonna actually adopt the ordinance without ENF or if you were gonna send it back for review and just sort of provide guidance that you want it, you don't have any issues with anything other than ENF. So yeah, that's what I thought it was. I thought you weren't gonna be adopting the ordinance tonight.
Yeah, I
You're
guess,
just gonna be saying, your city council's guidance is we're only concerned with ENF. We'd like this looked at. And then what I'd recommend you do, so you don't have to do a first reading again, is just continue it to a date certain. So it can go to the planning commission, they can provide their recommendation, and then it's still on your agenda for a certain date for second reading.
okay,
That makes sense.
so we really don't have to vote on anything, but we would incorporate the staff recommendation.
We have to have a specific date, so it looks like that would be December 2nd. Is that right?
Okay. Does that seem reasonable, Fred?
For second reading?
Okay,
Mayor, you do need a motion that says you're asking staff to take this back to look at these two items and then come back on December 2nd for second reading. So we do need that motion.
okay. Okay, so a motion to send this back to staff to look at paragraph C and F and bring it back on December did we say the 2nd, December the 2nd? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further?
It's a friendly amendment referencing ordinance number 1925.
Okay, yeah, okay, the motion then would reference ordinance number 1925. Okay, with that second?
And that
Okay,
as
all
well.
right. Anything else? Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Let's go ahead and vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks, Fred. Sorry, I guess it better do it right than to do it fast. Great, thank you. Council, at 7:30, we have one more piece of business to do. We could take a break or we could finish that piece and come back. We do have an executive session later on, so. Take a break. Let's go and take a break now. Let's do. Okay, all right, let's be back in 10, 15 minutes. Could we take our seats and we'll get started here in just a little bit? Okay, thank you all. And thanks to Sally Fitzgerald for the beverages and the treats. Thank you, Sally. Okay, oh, and the Women's Club. Very good. Next item then is second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 2225, an ordinance of the city of Manitou Springs, Colorado, amending the Manitou Springs Municipal Code to allow digital publication of certain publication notices. And of course, we'd had some discussion on this 2 weeks ago at first reading. Denise or Jeff, do you want to make, hey, Jeff, do you want to make some comments?
You know, basically what we did was went through your municipal code and looked at all the provisions that we felt you could legally move to digital publication versus newspaper publication. And so this ordinance basically does that. It moves everything that you're allowed to have published digitally versus in the newspaper to digital publication. And then a few things remain required under certain laws to be published in the newspaper, and those had to stay there. So the whole point of this was to try and save the city some money, or actually maybe a fair amount of money, because the costs of publication are much increased given that your standard publication paper no longer does it. So.
Right. Yeah, thank you for that background. Council, I think there wasn't much controversy on this, and I think in general, we had a pretty good consensus on this. Do we have questions or comments? We probably could go to, okay, Michelle?
I move on second reading. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oops, oh yeah, sorry. So, okay. All right. I'll open up the public comment portion of this public hearing if anyone would like to speak to it. Did we have any? We didn't have any emails or interest. Okay, apparently not. Close the public hearing, public comment portion rather. And Michelle?
I move to approve on second reading ordinance number 2225, an ordinance of the city of Manitou Springs, Colorado, amending the Manitou Springs Municipal Code to allow digital publication of certain publication notices.
Great, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by, I guess, Nancy, I guess. Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Let's vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. Okay. That takes us to receive or act on council correspondence. Nancy, you have your hand up?
Yes. Unfortunately, Mr. Shade is not here tonight. Recently, a police report was filed by one of our residents concerning Councilor Shada. The report details an encounter in the Dillon parking lot where discussion escalated to the point that the resident felt unsafe. This type of behavior is unacceptable under any circumstances and is especially troubling when it involves a member of the city council. This incident marks the third occasion of which I am aware where Mr. Shada has failed to behave as one would expect, and with behavior that should be demanded of our city leaders. These repeated occurrences not only reflect poorly on Mr. Shada, but also puts the credibility of our governing body at risk, since we have been aware of each incident and have taken little to no action. The first incident took place several years ago when Mr. Shada accosted an employee of the city of Colorado Springs. The employee felt so bullied that he reported his concerns to Manitou Springs. The second incident involved Mr. Shada's dog biting a resident. Instead of apologizing and offering assistance, Mr. Shada did not reveal his true identity to the victim. Only after being identified on Facebook did he take the appropriate steps and responsibility. These mark three different incidents, but I know I've personally felt the intimidation and chilling effects of Mr. Shada's bullying tactics and have witnessed Mr. Shada's rude behavior towards staff and presenters. This suggests a very troubling pattern. I believe it is likely that others have also felt threatened or intimidated by him, but have not publicly reported it. Notably, we have let otherwise good staff members go after one such incident. Yet Mr. Shada has not faced any consequences. All three incidences reflect negatively, not only on Mr. Shada, but also on the city council and the city itself, as he serves as a representative of our community. While it is important to acknowledge Mr. Shada's tireless work and deep passion for improving Manitou Springs, which I very much do value, we must also recognize that passion can sometimes manifest as intimidation and threats. Unfortunately, this appears to be the case in these situations. Given these concerns, I am respectfully requesting that Mr. Shada resign from his position on the City Council before the situation escalates further or results in more serious consequences. Additionally, I am aware of rumors regarding a possible recall initiative. To save the city from the expense and divisiveness of a special election, I urge Mr. Shada to step down voluntarily. If Mr. Shada chooses not to resign, I request that this issue be placed on the agenda for our next regular meeting so that we may discuss and act on available options to address these concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Julie?
I have two things. One is for the last 2 to 3 days, there's been a significant amount of water, and I'm not sure the source of it. I don't know if it's city water or mineral water pouring down 24/7 the lower part of Grand Avenue. And I don't know what's causing it. And I don't know if there's a way to fix it, but I wanted to make sure that was that staff is aware of it, because I've not previously reported that to Denise or anyone. The second issue is I had a neighbor approach me yesterday and complain about the blighted condition of the residential structures that are facing Grand Avenue that are on part of the Wheeler House property. The backside of all of those cottages or cabins or whatever you call them are very decrepit, and he asked me why isn't the city insisting that something be done about it? There's a lot of overgrown weeds and trees hanging into the street so that you have to walk in the middle of the street to even, unless you duck, but the buildings themselves really look bad. And so I said I would bring that up tonight.
Okay, thank you. And Denise, I saw you making notes on those two items, so our understanding is that staff will address that appropriately. Judith, please.
I have two items. First, I would like to give kudos to the Chamber of Commerce, the League of Women Voters, and the Cliff House for hosting the candidate forum last night. It was really a wonderful event, and appreciate the candidates all coming out and giving statements and telling us all about themselves. So really, really appreciate that. And second of all, I'd like to acknowledge that there's 3 UCCS students in the audience tonight who came here specifically this evening to learn about ADUs. And I just hope that that particular presentation didn't disappoint you tonight. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Natalie?
Okay, I have 2 items. The first one, I have discussed with Denise, but I've had several people from the community interested in expanding the number of stops of the Route 33 bus that currently it's set up sort of as an express. And there's been some requests for a stop at the pool and at Pawnee. And then additionally, I would like to say that I am, I guess I don't want to say comfortable, but Nancy's request that we consider putting an item on the agenda to discuss John Shada. I am comfortable doing that if that's something you'd like to do tonight.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to ask council about that. Councilor Fortune had asked that this be addressed at our next regular meeting. We actually had planned to not meet on November the 14th because of the election. And then on the 11th, when we would normally have a work session, we were also planning not to meet, in part because it's Veterans Day. And I think giving staff a little bit of time to focus on the budget after the election was sort of the original logic behind that. That would actually make the next regular meeting November the 18th, which is nearly a month away. We could certainly change our schedule and and meet on the 4th. Okay, that's election night. Maybe we want to move it to a different day of the week. November the 10th would be a possibility. That's a Monday. So I guess I'd like to get council's take on that. Do we meet and when? And I'll start over here with Nancy. I mean,
I'm not
the
asking for a
18th
special meeting. I would just like it on our next regular meeting.
Okay, and what I'm
to-
saying is because of what we'd already planned, that next regular meeting wouldn't be till November the 18th.
And I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that?
I would like, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. I'm sorry, Julie,
Had her
please.
hand up, so I don't necessarily have to go out of order. I didn't realize you wanted to go down the row. I just-
No,
I just wanted to say that to me, it's really important that we hear from the department heads before the all-day budget meeting. And if we have to squeeze that into an evening that we don't normally meet or add somewhere, I really would not want to be here on the 4th on election night. But I really would like to hear from the department heads before, rather than on the day of our all-day budget meeting. And I know I already repeated myself about that last time, and I don't want to be obnoxious about it, but I just wanted to remind you that I would hope that we get that scheduled. I don't care if it's I would prefer the evening, and that way we can more likely all be there, as opposed to someone having to take time off from work. But however it might be, I mean, I was thinking staff might not like to come in the evening, but they might prefer to come on a weeknight and have their weekend free. I just really don't want to have to squeeze it into the budget day.
Okay, thank you. I think we really got two things here. The first question was a meeting to discuss Mr. Shade's behavior and possible consequences. And then we have the idea of a meeting to get with the department heads, part of our normal budget process. So let's take those in two different steps. Okay, so Nancy, you're good with the okay, now we're talking about the John Shada question. You're good with the 18th, Nancy, and you wouldn't need to necessarily move it.
18th.
Judith, I'm sorry,
I'm okay with the 18th.
the 18th. Natalie,
I'm comfortable with the 18th.
okay,
I'm good with the November 18th.
okay. Julie, I'm good with that too. Okay, so
I make a caveat, though.
make a
If the
comment.
only time for us to hear from staff, from the department heads, is the 18th or the 22nd, I think if I remember correctly, that's our all-day Saturday thing, then I would consider hearing from staff more timely, more of a pressing time issue. But if we can squeeze in the Shada meeting and the department head meeting, both to occur, that's fine. I just want to make sure if it's one or the other, I'd much rather hear from staff and push the Shada issue off to after our budget meeting, if there's not time to do both before the 22nd of November.
Okay, well, it looks we have five of us in favor of discussing the Shada issue on November the 18th, and you're not necessarily opposed. You're fine. Okay. Okay, well, let's take these separately. So we will we'll add the to John Shada's situation to the November 18th agenda. That'll be actually our next regular meeting. And then, okay, so the question, I guess, to council is we are planning on doing an all-day, well, from 9 a.m. to hopefully we'll be done by 2 p.m. a budget day retreat or workshop. It would actually be like a work session, and that would be November the 22nd. Location still to be determined, but someplace in Manitou. And then Julie is asking for a meeting prior to that to go over things with the department heads. So I'll be looking to council to see if you want to do a meeting like that and when we could do it. But I think first it's appropriate to ask Denise that we've got several things. On November the 12th, and we have staff in court on the Metro District property. I think we're still a little concerned about the audit. Maybe Denise, you could give us that, and we'll be in high budget season after the election. So Denise, could you address or
Yeah,
include?
And I'm not trying to say no, but I can tell you we can't do this. November 4th is the election. We're going to be redoing a budget no matter what the answer is. We need time to put that together. And we can't have an election and then expect staff to turn it around. I have heard loud and clear that you don't want every department head to present every single detail. We will make it very short so that you have time to present, but we really do need to keep it on November 22nd. Becca can't work any harder, nor can department heads with everything else that is on their plate.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so it may be a long day. Okay.
We will keep it 10 minutes for each person, and then you can ask questions and we'll go from there.
Okay, and if, and certainly the exercise, last week we got the drafts. We can be going over that, studying, coming up with questions. We can articulate them better after the 4th, once we know what the situation is with 2A and a probable, guess at our revenue situation for next year. In the meantime, it may be possible to get questions to Denise and Becca, but this year is, I think, more problematic, not simply because of the 2A question, the loss of the marijuana money, but we've had some protracted problems with getting the audit together. We had, it's been pretty cumbersome this year, and that's taken it put a huge burden on Becca, so I can appreciate that. So it may just be a long day, Julie. I appreciate it. And I'm a person okay, well, we need to get our work done. And I mean, and I'm a person who likes to sleep on it too, but it looks like it's going to be a long day. Michelle, please.
Thank you. Denise, is it possible when they come to speak to us, if they just give us their high level needs? And
We'll just go over very quickly. You guys said the budget book, you have what our goals are, you have the thing, and you have the capital. I think there are several things that you want to address, and that's the COG, the URA, the Chamber and Economic Development, and then the SIP, and how much do you want to spend in reserves? And those are the big questions, and then we will go from there. But we're going to give you our proposal, and then those are the 5 things that I anticipate a lot of discussion on.
thank you.
Thank you. Is that a satisfactory answer? Okay.
May I make
Judith?
I'm going to just respectfully disagree. I think that when we plan a budget day, I want to hear from the departments. I want to hear what they have to say. If I have to stay there till 6 o'clock, I would rather hear it from them, because to me, that gives us much more information to work. And they work so hard and putting that together. And I just really I want to respect their time, and I don't necessarily want to limit them to 10 minutes. Sometimes we ask them questions that take more than 10 minutes. So to me, I'm just going to say, let's let them come and present, and let's have the regular budget day we always have. And if we don't get out till 5, that's that. But I just want them to know that I want to hear what they have to say. And I don't want that to be condensed just so that we can leave early.
And I concur with that sentiment.
What I was planning on doing is just doing a big U or a big square and have all the department heads sitting there. So if you have questions as they present, if after they present, you have a question about their budget, they're still there and they can ask questions and move from there. So we will keep it limited as best we can then, and let them share, because one, they're very proud of what they've done and they want to share that with you. And this is their opportunity to shine for them and their staff. But I also hear that you want to keep it concise. So we'll try to do both, and we'll manage that accordingly. I'll ask staff to stay. They would rather stay a whole day on a Saturday and manage this than try to get this done quick, because when you do things quick, you make mistakes. There's already a couple of mistakes in the budget book that you've seen, and it's because we're trying to do things so quickly and we need time to make sure it's done right.
Thank you. Good points there. And Nancy, I think you said you were good with going the full day on the 22nd?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've never been supportive of cutting the staff down. I get a great deal from when the staff briefs us and, you know, even historically, we've had a million questions for them. So it's really us that, because we don't ask the questions ahead of time, we end up asking them that day. So I think it's incumbent upon us to ask our questions as soon as we have them. Thanks.
Good, thank you. Natalie?
I agree. I enjoy the staff presentations and recognize their expertise in their areas. And, you know, I think a lot of the day is going to be, again, dependent on 2A. So I think, yeah, I'm comfortable with the suggestions that have been made by Judith and Nancy.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, that got me to thinking, last week, and Natalie and I went up and took a tour of the water treatment plant. I mean, really that hands-on is better than sitting in a budget meeting and hearing about what we're doing. It's fun to actually go out and see what we've done, and in some cases what we're going to continue to do. So to me, that's part of the budget process too, but that's just the nuts and bolts of how the city operates. And I think it was neat. I would encourage, I don't know if any of the rest of you had the opportunity, but I think John Ewell is very proud of the work they've done up there, and it was informative and it was fun. And then a few weeks ago, we also took a tour of the swimming pool, which was catastrophic. Really, it was. I'm glad we're getting to it. It's not just cosmetic. There's structural issues. I'm glad we're finally getting to it. Phil was proud of the work that they're doing. He has a lot of connections. We're making progress there. He was also finding other problems. So that's. But anyway, to me, that's really the hands-on of part of the budget process to see things. So if you have opportunities like that, I would encourage you to do so. It's pretty enlightening. In the case of the water treatment plant, it was elevating. It was refreshing. The pool, I just kind of groaned and said, well, it's good we're finally getting to it. So, okay, I think that kind of gives some direction on the agendas for the coming month. Anything else on council correspondence? Okay. Denise, do you have anything?
No, if everything goes well, we hope to have Creek Walk completed by Friday. So that's hopefully, if everything goes well, the trees were planted. You may have seen that. And it's looking great. So hopefully we get Creek Walk done.
Super. Thanks. Okay, great. Let's see. All right. So our last item of business tonight is an executive session. Let me read the title and then we'll seek a motion and then transition, assuming we get the motion. An executive session to hold a conference with the city attorney for legal advice pursuant to section 5.1C of the City of Manitou Springs Home Rule Charter concerning Manitou and Pikes Peak Railway Company versus City of Manitou Springs, Colorado, El Paso County District Court Case number 2025 CV 30766. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Do a second?
Second.
Okay, let's vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. So we'll have a brief recess here while we transition over to the executive session. Ladies, thank you for coming. You're always welcome in Manitou. Check out the mineral springs and walk around. Well, this would be a good time to do it. Yeah.